come into a hybrid world now. We've just come out of being in a global pandemic where everybody's been online and social networking that way. And now we're coming back into a hybrid. So there is both opportunities. And Sue, I'd love to just start with you. Sort of what are the benefits and limitations of social networking? What do you see?
Well, I think the benefits of social media networking are absolutely increased visibility and your brand recognition. You'll expand, to me, you're always expanding your professional connections, which is what you want to do. You want to improve access to industry information so you can always stay on top of your game, and also job opportunities. So to me, the benefits also allow you to showcase your knowledge of your expertise in the industry and thought leadership. Now, on the other hand, some of the limitations include the potential for negative impact on your personal and professional reputation. There are privacy concerns and sometimes the risk of spending too much time on social media and neglecting some of the other things you should be doing. So those would be the limitations.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And Claire, maybe you could add on to this, and also maybe just touch a little bit on LinkedIn, because a lot of people have contacts on LinkedIn, and how do they sort of highlight a profile, etc., in LinkedIn?
Of course. Well, I think the good news from a social media perspective is potentially for those of us that are introverts, and most people assume that I'm an extrovert, but I'm actually an ambivert, which means I'm equally introverted and extroverted. And I think that sometimes there's a dauntingness when you're in a room or at a conference, that when you're physically there, that you don't have when it's a social media event. So social media networking rather. So I think some of the best practices are similar to what we were talking about earlier, about that sort of curiosity and paying it forward. If you see something on LinkedIn that you have a view on, share that view, right? If you see something that somebody has posted that you like, they may not be in your network. The joy of LinkedIn is that it shares on your feed, second degree and third degree people that you're not necessarily connected with. So there's an immediate benefit that you can see when you're on LinkedIn about how you can connect with others that are sharing questions, or that you are talking about some thought leadership pieces. So comment on them, have a view on it, ask a question, congratulate. There's lots of things that you can do that are very simple, but are allowing you to, again, as Ruth was talking about, build your brand. And I think one of the things that is something that's often overlooked is that you should keep your good manners that you would have in person. This equally applies across social media, I would say, in terms of best practice. And for those of you that are starting out in your career, just please do remember now, when you are thinking about something that you're putting out there, what we do know now is that people will look back at things historically, right? So just when you are commenting, make sure that is in a spirit and tone that if it was published across a newspaper, it would be how you would want it to be reflected upon you. So I think there's some really interesting things that you can do broader than LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn it is really remembering that is a professional platform, and you should be bringing the brand, your authentic brand and your authentic self to that, but the brand that you would want, as we were saying earlier, when you walked out of the room, what are people going to say about you? You should be doing that when you're posting across social media.
Excellent. Ruth, would you like to add something?
Yeah, look, a very simple tactic, I suppose, just specifically to LinkedIn. If you are thinking about a move and you're happy to, click that button to say that you're open to work where and when, folks who have recruiter accounts, whether they be retained search consultants or in-house talent acquisition teams or whomever, will see that. And it's a very simple thing to do if you're comfortable in doing that. I mean, if I think about 5-10 years ago, it was almost anathema that you would leave a role without securing the next one. Life has moved on and changed. People are famously taking breaks. They're, doing a role, they're completing it, and then sort of taking some time to decompress in this incredibly frenetic 24/7 VUCA world. So we're seeing more and more of that out there, which is perfectly acceptable. So just another thing to be aware of. And as you're even outside of LinkedIn, again, in terms of networking, talk to people, let them know what you're looking for. Try and be clear and narrow that if you can. But people will remember 2 or 3 things when you walk away from the conversation. And that's an important takeaway, I suppose, to let people know what you're looking for.
Well, thank you, Ruth, for sharing that. I just want to actually mention, one of the things that is available on BlueSteps is that we actually have what you can do to check your social media audit. So you have a social media audit that we provide for BlueSteps members that will maybe, go back through your social media and bring up some red flags. As Claire said, make sure you're polite on social media. So I encourage you all to check that out, because it's a good idea of really looking in on that. We also help people do their LinkedIn profile. So it's a good idea if you want to, see how you can stand out. If you're saying that you have lots of contacts and you're not using your LinkedIn profile, well, it's always good to update these as we go along. I'd like to now just ask, I'm going to ask each of you this question, because it's something that everyone, and it's coming in on the chat as well, is like, how much time should I spend networking each week? So let me start with Claire.
Well, that's a great question. And I think we all know that social media, not all social media is equal, is what I would say, right? I think all of us have been aware of days when we've, lost however many minutes or hours just scrolling through Instagram, or, watching videos on TikTok, or whatever it is that is your social media platform of choice. What I would say is create the habit of being quite disciplined across your social media, presence and time. I think if we again talk about LinkedIn, that is, the general professional platform that is used by many companies to promote their brand, and it's where, indeed, as Ruth was saying, recruiters go and look to find talent. Then I think it's about how that fits into your day, right? So I'm based in London. We're still, hybrid, but people are using public transport more. And what we saw before the pandemic was that there was always a big sort of social media across LinkedIn, first thing in the morning as people were going into the office. And then as they were leaving the office at night, again, there was another sort of peak usage. So I think it's about how that fits into your day and schedule. I would also say that it's important that you have a little bit of discipline around it, So I think it's, why are you wanting to go onto LinkedIn? What's your purpose in being there? Is it to upskill yourself, to learn some commentary, to learn about, what's happening in certain areas? And I would also say, I think that it's quite important, and we haven't really touched on this, that sometimes you can put your out of office on LinkedIn, and a lot of people know that, but you are able to kind of say, I'm just taking a break from this. There's an out of office button for if you are getting emails or things like that. So just as it's important to create that habit, it is also as important to have some downtime from it. We all know that's better for our mental well-being. So I'm not going to prescribe a time. Build it into what your day and your schedule looks like, and ensure that you keep that habit. I think that's part of what we're seeking to achieve here from a networking standpoint. So the message here is that consistency is really important, to be able to bring that network and build it so that it's useful to you in times when you want to access it.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Sue, anything would you like to add?
Yes, actually, Claire, that was very well said. I think, again, depending on your goals, depending on how much time you have available and how much value you're getting, I'd say that's what is going to drive how many usage is. But I think it's important, what I would add is to prioritize and focus on the platforms that are most relevant to what your needs are. And so at the time, it might be if you're looking for a job, and others, it might be when you're trying just to connect with new people in your industry. So I would allocate the time accordingly based on what your goals and needs are. But my guideline is, I try to do 1 to 2 hours. I'm actually on 1 to 2 hours, they say per week, but I'm probably on an hour a day. So I think it's just a good filler for me, and I love to support people that are out there by liking on LinkedIn the most. That's what I would do.
Thank you. And Ruth, I'm going to ask you as well about the time, but I'm also going to ask when you can build on this, when you talk about the time, think about it, who should I target in my online networking outreach?
As you know, Claire, I love poetry, and there's a great Irish poet called John O'Donoghue, and he has a great line from one of his poems about the way you look at things is the most powerful force in shaping your life. So for me, it's not necessarily quantity, it's sort of quality. Think about your external network, but most importantly, also think about your internal network, because there's probably opportunities internally that you're not even aware of, that people can influence your direction upwards or to other projects in your organization today. From an external point of view, I think it's good to be mindful of the time you spend relative to your other commitments. So I don't think I've put a quantum on it per se. I think it's really being judicious on who and where and what. So again, the retained search firms, the members of AESC have high quality standards. They want to look after candidates. They want to learn from candidates. It's the various online platforms. It's attending conferences. It's helping others connect when you don't have any obvious kind of need to. So it's all of these things, I suppose. But I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think about it in a holistic way rather than just a quantum. I must do this, I must do that every day. And there will be opportunities to kind of gain and learn new insights about your industry. Go to those, learn more, connect with people. It's quite rich. It's hard to do initially, and you sometimes do have to get out of your comfort zone. But once you're kind of curious and empathetic with others, then the kind of courage comes, right? So it gets easier over time.
Thank you very much, Ruth, for sharing that. I think one of the things as well is, you can observe from others how others are networking and what they're doing, especially online and social media. And so I know there's a lot of people coming in here saying, I don't know where to start, how to start, but I mean, that's something to do is to learn from others and see what's been done on that. And if we're looking, Claire, on, online networking and on our social media, and we talked a little bit about LinkedIn as well there, but there's other ways of social media. I mean, there's lots that people are using, but what really makes a connection stand out when you're looking at it?
That's a great question. And I think there's two ways of looking at this. It's like, do I want to connect with this person? Do I want to add this person to my network? And what is making me somebody that is attractive that people would like to connect with me? So I think if it's that you're making that request that you're wanting to connect with somebody, do your homework. Right? We all know that we get connection requests so many times a day. I recently had somebody that asked me if I would like to sponsor a retail event, and Lawrence Simons has nothing to do with retail. So clearly they hadn't done their homework when they were wanting to connect with me, and that doesn't make the connection or the impression that you would like to have. So a connection that stands out is really when there's an authenticity in what they're asking you or why they want to connect with you. And it can be as simple as, I would like to add you to my network. I think there is also something about when you're looking at what those connections that you want to connect with, how does that stand out? There is really something about you know, what it is that you are saying about yourself. We said right at the beginning, you know, what is your personal brand? And I think it is about being clear that there's a photograph there, you know, that is of a human being. That's really important. It's also that when a connection is clear around, you know, I am the CEO, I am a member of the 30% group, and I'm a fellow of the Society of Leaders at St. George's, and I like Yorkshire tea, right? So it's telling you everything that there is about me. And that means that other people who also like Yorkshire tea might think that they should connect with me. I would love that, right? So it is about being personal and personable, and also ensuring that when you are making that request, you are doing so from a, you know, Ruth was talking about this, that you're doing it from a position of what is the benefit to this person in connecting with me, right? It's a two-way street, and it has to be about how can my network help them? Or if you're at the beginning of that process, you're being honest about, I would like to build my network, and you know, I'm at the start of my career, and you clearly have, you know, got a few more years of experience on me, and it would be great if I could connect with you. So I think it's about always bringing that authenticity to that approach, and equally that when you are looking at those connection requests, that you are curating that in a way that is allowing you to ensure that you are, you know, enriching your network.